Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Startup Series. Today, we start the fourth season, and I'm thankful for all your support. And I appreciate your feedback on the series as well as the topic you would like to see covered, or people whose knowledge and experience you feel would benefit us all in the Startup Series. Please do reach out to me and let me know your comments. And this event is supported by Thai Delhi, and I'm sure you know about Thai. And if you're not, just go ahead and find about Thai. And if you believe that they can help you in your entrepreneurship journey, do consider joining it. I'm Govind Kedia, and with my team at Arctic Invent, we aim to help companies increase their enterprise value and protect them against copycats by way of building strategic IP portfolios. We help and handhold startups and companies through entire process of discovery to grant of their IP assets. I'm especially pleased to welcome to the series my next guest. I met him earlier this year, and right from my initial conversation with him, I knew I had to get him as a guest speaker. And today, I'm happy to do that. It is my absolute privilege to host him. Satya sir, welcome to the Startup Series. It is my pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Govind. I'm delighted to be here.
Great.
And yeah, we could get started. I hope the conversation will be of value to all the entrepreneurs.
Great. Thank you, sir. And before we start, let me introduce Satya sir. He's a true trailblazer in the edtech sector and beyond. He has been the founder and chairman of CL Educate, a leading edtech company. I'm sure people of my age would have either been a student or somehow associated with the brand. And presence across Asia, North America, Africa. Brands like Career Launcher, Indus World School, and of course, I had a privilege to hear his story, and that inspired me a lot. Satya Sar's influence extend beyond entrepreneurship into policy making. He was instrumental in authoring new education policy for government of Delhi in 2014 and served on 2019 MHRD steering committee on national education policy, and which shaped the education landscape in India. For over 2 decades, he has been mentoring startups both directly and through venture funds, fostering innovation on a global scale. On the cultural front, Satya sir has published Urdu Poet and dedicated promoter of Sanskrit and Urdu. He's a board member of Rekta, not-profit committed to promoting Urdu, and has written 3 books on poetry. With impressive academic record from St. Stephen's College and IIM Bangalore, and a background in a competitive cricket, Satya sir is a truly multifaceted personality. And I feel I may have missed a lot of things in this short introduction. Sir, if I missed anything which you would like to tell our audience, I would, request you to please do add.
No, Govind, that is far too generous. I think we will get on. I'm grateful for your introduction, but yes, it's more than what is needed, and it's reasonably generous. So I can't add more to it.
Thank you, sir, so much. Now, before we dive into this topic of the episode, I would encourage you to put your questions and comments, and of course, Satya sir is here to answer them entire in the during the entire conversation. I'll pick them as we come and talk about this topic, and I would really request you to use this opportunity to use this to ask a question. Now, pivot in the business sense, as defined in the dictionary, is to adapt or improve by adjusting or modifying something, such as product, service, or strategy. Now, pivoting may not only be defined or planned step or action, but a more frequent series of unplanned steps, consciously or unconsciously, uh, take into your day-to-day business activities. Now, what's your take on this, sir? And why startup should be mindful of it?
Okay. So, Govind, interestingly, the word pivot, for the first time I heard or I practiced was way back when we were kids and we were in cricket coaching. And as a leg spinner or as a medium pacer, when you take your bowling stride and you deliver the delivery, at the time your entire body is balanced on the ball of the feet of your front foot. Okay. And if you don't pivot, you will venture straight down the pitch into what is called as a danger area, and the umpire will call you out and then warn you. So that was the first recollection that I have, where the coaches would make the bowlers pause, work on their pivot, so that after you bowl, you get out of the danger zone in your follow through. Okay. Now, after becoming an entrepreneur, 2 decades later, that word came back in the entrepreneurial conversations and venture capital VC meetings and strategic meetings, etc. So, pivot is actually something every child, every human being is doing all the time, which is, like you're about to enter the lift in your day-to-day life, and then the lift door begins to shut. You pivot, you put your hand away, or you stop it by doing something. That's pivoting. So anything that you do, which is while doing something which is in a planned manner, or as a matter of uh, everyday, or a normal activity, and then if you encounter some little danger, or something which could hurt you, you kind of pivot away to stay safe and to stay effective. So it's everything in entrepreneurship that we hear, they're all borrowed from day to day terms, used technically to communicate a whole science of behavior in one simple word, a term.
Hmm.
That's where pivot has come from. Every human being does it, so every entrepreneur has to do it, because entrepreneurship is nothing but a subset of life that we all know very well about.
Sure. No, thanks for sharing this. Relation between this world and our daily life. And I think it's very, very important that pivot is something that we are doing it on a day-to-day basis as well. It's just that be mindful and be observant of this topic. But end of the day, when we think about pivoting in the context of startups, it's mostly reactionary, as a reaction to a change or a status, or a status quo change. It could be a change in market in which we operate, a change in the consumer, their needs or preference, a change in the competition, new entrant or step competition may take away the swing at the market in their favor, and most
Yeah.
importantly, sudden and unexpected change like we faced few years back and we are still reconciling with, like COVID, right? Now you have
Yeah.
faced them all in many years as a founder. It will be great if you can share your story pivoting from a cricketer to an entrepreneur and how you suggest startups uh, in understanding and accepting the change, and how do they reconcile with each of them. I think it would be great if you can share that story, and how did you kind of took this journey. That would be really insightful for our audience today.
Okay. That actually is an invitation for a long lecture, Govind. I'll try and restrict it to a couple of minutes, and then we can, so that the conversational approach can continue. See, there are two or three thoughts that come to me when you ask that question. Okay. Number one is, as an entrepreneur, uh, there are certain things that you and I have to be stubborn about, and there are certain things that you and as entrepreneurs have to be flexible about and agile around. Okay. Pivot comes as a manifestation of that attitude. Okay. And many a time entrepreneurial journeys, they are interrupted, or they turn towards failures when when a definition of entrepreneur is somebody who takes risks, and then who goes out and fetches something. The origin of the word has come from Latin, to venture into the sea and fetching fish. That was the origin of the word entrepreneur, one who goes out and fetches. Okay. Now when you going out to fetch uh, into the high seas, you're going to face dangers. So what is it when you are pursuing something like that, and all of us as entrepreneurs are doing that in a much easier way? We don't die if a project fails tomorrow morning. But uh, so some things the entrepreneurs have to be very stubborn about, all of us know. Okay. And some things that you need to be flexible about, all of us know. For example, I always keep changing it, and I learned it during the course of my journey. One of the definitions, beautiful definitions of entrepreneurship that I heard from a gentleman called Yavar Ali Beg, who helped G in its visioning when they entered India. Yavar used to say that the only unchanging part of an organization is her core ideology. And core ideology is core values plus core purpose. भाई आप किस चीज के लिए बने हो, what is your reason d'etre, that doesn't change. And who am I, core values is who am I, uh, what are the things that I am unlikely to do even if I'm punished for doing it, that defines my values in its actions. इनको छोड़कर बाकी सब कुछ चेंज होता है, होना चाहिए. Govind, 10% Hindi is okay, na? Our audiences are,
Yes, yes,
they,
yes. All
they
good, all
understand a
good.
little bit
No,
of
all
Hindi,
good.
right? Yeah.
No, all good,
Sorry,
all good, sir.
I should have
All good.
checked that. So, product, strategies, technologies, tactics, people, geographies, markets, all of these must change and have to change. If it isn't changing, means you are stubborn about incorrect things. Whereas, uh, uh, what you are, what is the purpose for which you've built your company, and purpose is not goal. Okay, purpose is much deeper, much longer. I want to become a billion-dollar company in the next 5 years. It's a goal. The purpose could be defined by saying that I'm going to do this by delivering education to the youth of this country, okay, making their career dreams come true. That could be the definition of what is the purpose for which you are born. So purpose और वैल्यूज चेंज नहीं होते हैं, बाकी सारे चेंज होना चाहिए, और ये अच्छी बात है. That is the second thing. So whenever as entrepreneurs I talk to them saying that no, I have put so much of money already in this strategy is not working, now going back is an admission of failure, ऐसा करके अटक जाते हैं. The second important thing that I want to come to is, and this is a very real thing in today's entrepreneurship in India, especially because it has become a high stakes game. See, when I started out, I didn't take any investors money for a long time, until well beyond it being a success story. Okay. And then when somebody comes to invest money, still that who's boss at the table. You've taken
Hmm.
just enough money for them to be there around and do it. But now we are taking lots more money, and the control, the strategies, a lot of it are almost getting dictated to entrepreneurs, because one, they are very young, and the person who comes
Hmm.
and puts money is like 20-30 years of experience and puts a few million dollars of money. So, and there is this little bit of a lack of confidence that is understandable. Okay. बट एक चीज का ध्यान हमको रखना चाहिए हमेशा, कि द ओनली वे अ कंपनी हैज एवर डाइड इन द वर्ल्ड is when there is no cash in the bank.
Absolutely.
कोई कोई और रीजन नहीं है जिससे कंपनी मरता है. Okay, if a company is valued at $22 billion yesterday, it has become $12 billion today, it still hasn't died. But the entrepreneur has an opportunity to recover.
Hmm.
Similarly, you launched a project yesterday, you made a venture into a new area, it bombed, doesn't matter. Entrepreneurship is 70% failures. That appetite must be there. So, given these things, that was cash is king. You need to stay long enough to get lucky. That's a very important thing. And you need to be stubborn about some things and flexible, agile about certain things. These are the three things that I would kind of highlight to, in a little longish way, to your question, के pivoting करने के, और मेरे जर्नी में बहुत सारे हुए. What program did I start with? Okay, I started with the only thing that people would have bought from me, that was a strategy. But even within that, I started with MBA test prep. Okay, like in MBA test prep, the direct CAT exam had a lot of competition. So the design of it was to kind of skirt around the big players by launching something called as a personality development program. Became
Hmm.
successful in that, and then came to mainstream to take the big guys of that era 25 years ago. Okay, so
Great.
then why do you add a new product? A new law entrance exam was announced by the policy, like you mentioned. One reason for you to pivot proactively or reactively could be policy changes. So
Hmm.
a national law exam was announced, and national law schools were new in this country. Bright kids were wanting to go. So we got into that instead of some other segment as we were beginning to grow. So policies, environment, competition, technologies, these are all the reasons for which various pivots we would have done over the last 25 years.
Sure. No, thank you. It was so valuable. I think one of the key takeaway I have today, and I think listeners who are actively here, is that you said about the value and the purpose, right? And I think a lot of times, the goal is the primary driver of a startup, or and that's why the pivot becomes difficult, because the purpose is sometimes not very clear. That okay, what is it that we want to achieve? It could be a monetary goal, but it's not a
Right,
purpose, right? Like you
right.
said, it's really, really. I think one of the very, very important lesson that in the pivoting we should take away from here is that when we are running a startup, I think it's like discovering ourselves as humans, that what is my purpose and what is my value. And I think that organization also has to have this to be able to then pivot successfully, like you said. Now I have another question, but I still want to, nudge you to share a bit more that how did you reconcile, some of the difficult pivots, like, when you were trying to be a cricketer and then, eventually you went to St. Stephen's. I
Hmm.
still don't want to leave you with that question. I don't want to, but I still want to take some lessons from that journey, because I think at that age, and that, probably, that sometimes happens with all of us as young professionals, that sometimes we believe that it will happen with our lives and it doesn't happen, and then we
Sure.
kind of so I want to take some lessons from there. So if you can please share some insights on those times, that would be really useful.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Govind. I just am a little too diffident. It would look like I'm talking too much about myself and not focusing on the
Oh,
audience. But since you're egging me, let me try and put it briefly and in a manner. Hopefully, it is useful for them. See, one of the things in I played competitive cricket, and I did nothing but cricket from the age of 14 to 21. And to the extent that I walked up to my parents and told them that I'm not taking this year's class 12th board exams because I have still one more year of chance of playing school cricket, which is under 17 Vijay Hazare Trophy, one more year, and that will enhance my chances. So मैंने 12वीं का एग्जाम भी बंक किया था, और उसके बाद मैं, the other thing, my coach Bishan Bedi and also at home, they always would say that you play whatever you want to play, but don't neglect your studies. That's what will last you for long. Even my cricket coach used to say that. Okay, so even when I went to St. Stephen's, I went on my academic performance of class 12 board exams. It was not a sports quota, because I wanted to retain the right to say no if something is not acceptable to me. Okay,
hmm.
and there is the at that time, today it's a very, very changed times. Today the top 1,000 cricketers are very well off in India. There's no doubt about it. At the age of 19, if you're in the talented top 1,000, you'll get to do something or the other thanks to IPL and so on. At that time, other than top 30 or 50 cricketers, including in the top 50, top 30, uh, if you don't make it to the India 11, you will become a clerk. In any case, you'll become a clerk at Bank of Baroda or Indian Airlines or CWC, etc. So whether it is Rahul Dravid or Kapil Dev or Bishan Bedi or Anil Kumble, they all would have got a job in State Bank of India or something like that. And then when their cricket took off, and then they played for India, after half a dozen years, they will quit that job and get on to do some business and so on. So though I played all the way till Delhi University, I played Vijay Merchant, Vijay Hazare, Rohington Baria, Kuch Bihar, all of that till under 19. But it was plateauing by the time I was finishing my college. And if you don't make your Ranji debut and make an impact by 21, you are getting into the second rung. You can continue to do, but I didn't want to just vegetate. Okay. So my idea was, let me crack some good exam, let me continue my education, And when I got to IIM Bangalore, you will be very surprised. I got Bishan Bedi to speak with Gundappa Vishwanath. And then in the first week of joining IIM Bangalore, I took my kit bag and went to KSCA for practice. Okay.
Wow.
It's just that पहले टर्म में मेरे 2 Ds आ गए थे IIMB में. मेरा मेरा मार्केटिंग में डी आया, मेरा प्रॉप स्टैट्स में डी आया, और 4 D आते तो घर भेज देते हैं. तो मैं प्रोफेशनल क्रिकेट एस्पिरेंट से एमेच्योर लाइफस्टाइल क्रिकेटर बन गया एट द एंड ऑफ फर्स्ट टर्म ऑफ IIM Bangalore. Okay. And the reason for this pivot was very simple. I wanted to enjoy cricket and not cricket. Cricket has become also a reason for depression, sadness for a whole lot of my friends, क्योंकि उन्होंने पढ़ाई नहीं की थी. और cricketing careers, people who were rated, I mean, I can tell you a whole lot of stories, but I wanted it to be a very good, healthy part of it. And I'm very glad that the elders who were helping me, they said focus on academics, and perhaps I had a little bit of a ability to deal with academics. So दोनों का जो है healthy mix रहा है, and that's the long and short of it.
Sure. No, thank you. The reason I wanted to, bring this story because I got inspired by this story because when we look back in our lives, I started to kind of thinking that I will become a doctor. I did 2 attempts of PMT and failed, and of course, it was hard to reconcile. And the reason to bring this topic is also that when we are pivoting. It's also sometimes become very emotional when you invested like
Yes.
you told
Yes.
14 till 21, at that age, I mean 50% of your age is practically was invested. And
Yeah.
I think like you, I again want to relate back what you said earlier that sometimes it's hard to pivot and people don't want to pivot because they say I have invested so much of money and time and I don't want to do it
Yes.
now. So I
Yes.
think this is what the lesson I wanted to bring with
No,
this
no, you're
story.
right.
That
Yeah, you're
so
you're you're
thank you for
absolute.
sharing. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
So
Thanks, Govind.
now coming one more thing that of course one more topic that we also are going to discuss is the competition. I think a lot of times pivot is triggered by the competition. It could be external, internal, or some policies and all that. But so let's detour a bit and talk about this competition as a topic. Of course, EdTech has seen many waves, and we have spoken about it. And I also remember you told me as long as the value system, like you said, is very strong, there's no need to worry. Uh, could you unwrap that for our audience and as well as tell how you looked at competition then when the previous waves were there and now how do you look now with of course news of a lot of edtech companies difficult to finding money and all that. So what's your take? It's a bit of a controversial, but I do want you to share your frank opinion on that.
Yeah, no, Govind, actually, I'm quite delighted at this conversation. You're able to pick some things which I think are extremely layered, and they're very important for us to understand. I don't know if you've heard of this. It is popular because the guy who said it now is extremely successful. But I think it's Peter Thiel who said that competition is for morons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh, and actually, that's a little bit of a stirring the hornet's nest way of saying it. But actually, if you look at it, and I again go back to my journey in cricket. You see, when I was a leg spinner. Okay. When I'm bowling a leg spinner, and let's say a Sachin or a Ajay Jadeja, I'm talking naming a few people of my era, they're batting. Who's my competition? Is it Sachin? Is it Ajay Jadeja? It actually is the spot at which I want my ball to land. And I can tell you some fascinating experiences, just one or two. मैं आपको बताता हूँ. हम लोग इंटर कॉलेज क्वार्टर फाइनल्स खेल रहे थे किरोड़ीमल कॉलेज में. ओके. जब मैं बॉलिंग करने आया था, दे वर 167 फॉर 2. ओके. And there was a batsman who was batting on 65, the other batsman was batting on some 90s. ठीक है. और मैंने एक को उसको बॉल किया, उसने स्टेप आउट करके शॉट मारा, ओके, एंड ही गॉट कॉट इन लॉन्ग ऑन। ठीक, नाउ नया बैट्समैन आया है, ओके, नया बैट्समैन भी लेफ्ट हैंडर था, जो नॉन स्ट्राइकर दूसरा वो भी लेफ्ट हैंडर था, सॉरी राइट हैंडर था, लेफ्ट हैंडर गॉट आउट, राइट हैंडर केम एंड दिस गाय आल्सो राइट हैंडर, एंड आई थॉट दैट नया बैट्समैन आया, इसको मैं गुगली करता हूं, ओके, मैंने गुगली किया, ओके, वो एक्सपेंसिव कवर ड्राइव मारने गया और वो बोल्ड हो गया। When he had walked back to the pavilion by almost 10-15 meters from the wicket, did I realize मैंने जिसे आउट किया था वो नया बैट्समैन नहीं था, वो बैट्समैन था जो 95 पे खेल रहा था, क्योंकि उसने लॉन्ग ऑन पे मारा, ये लोग क्रॉस ओवर कर गए थे, बट मेरे दिमाग में मैं नया बंदे को बॉल कर रहा था, मैंने बैट्समैन को देखा ही नहीं था, मैंने, सो वेयर वर माय आईज डिडंट प्ले अटेंशन हु इज बैटिंग, उस स्पॉट में जहां गिराना था वो गिराया, तो कंपटीशन गॉट आउट। If you take that and bring it to our business, see, looking at the world through competition is actually you're looking at the derivative. As an entrepreneur, where should I look at? My finger should be on the pulse of the customer, because
Absolutely.
competition भी कस्टमर के पल्स में उंगली रखकर कर रहा है ना, शायद वो कुछ चीजें बेहतर पल्स पढ़ रहा है, this because of that reason his ability to respond, his technology, his product, etc. must be coming out good, because his pulse reading perhaps is better. Now I should not be, if I see that competition is doing better, it's a good indicator for me to tell me ki boss, go and look at the customer more closely, perhaps you are missing something there. So from that point of view मैं कहता हूं कि competition, two things I would say about competition: never underestimate, never speak uh, impolitely, disrespectfully about competition, okay, because they're also respect, if there's a good respectable entrepreneurs, they are all people to learn from, to have relationship with. In test prep industry, I am on WhatsApp with almost every single founder, including all so-called competition, okay, because there is a lot to learn from. That is number one. Number two, don't depend on competition for your strategies, but yes, having a good idea of what competition is doing or alternatives are doing is a good way for you to keep doing a self check on yourself. लेकिन
Hmm.
अगर कुछ डाउट है, कुछ करने का है, और आज के तारीख में टेक्नोलॉजी के होते हुए the ease with which, the low cost with which you can get the voice of customer is close to zero. There is no cost, there is no time. I think
Hmm.
best is, I would always say, competition ko dekh. So that is why when I come back and connect with what I started off with, when Peter Thiel says competition is for morons, he's talking about me. He's saying that अगर मैं competition को देखकर अपना strategies बना रहा हूं, तो I am a moron. अगर मैं
Hmm.
customer को देखकर अपना बनाता हूं, तो I am a customer centric guy. My chances of success is more, and if I fail, or when I fail, I will fail cheap and I will fail fast, which is another very
Hmm.
important mantra of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. No, I think this is great lesson. I think sometimes we get into that so-called victim mode. That competition is too much, and that's why I'm not able to survive. I think this is the chat that I'm going to keep it when I get into that mode, that competition is stopping us to grow. I think this is a very very important reminder for us to like you said, that always look at where you want to bowl, rather than just thinking about what the competition is doing. I think that's a great lesson. Thank you for sharing. Now again, when we look at pivoting again, coming back to this topic, how do you decide, especially let's say in the common scenarios of startups, like you said, cash or otherwise, what are the when is the right time for this, and could you, or possibly if you can share some situations where you feel that pivoting is very very important in a startup journey, so to say, right? That will really help a lot of us to think about this as a topic.
Yeah, uh, मुझे लगता है कि एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर it is extremely important to stay in a certain mental space which is very healthy, positive, and functional about the future. Okay. And when I say that, what it helps is, for example, an interaction like this, Govin, while you might be seeing as I am contributing to the listeners. It also is a moment of reflection for me. These 60 minutes I'm reflecting, and I'm saying a few things which I have not said for the last few years or many years. These opportunities don't come through, and there might be some question that might come up that can help me reflect, or going for some conferences, meeting some entrepreneurs, reading the competitions documents, or P&Ls or balance sheets published as a listed company. I do that a little bit of time about good companies that I see. So अगर आप एक continuous state of learning and discovery में रहेंगे, तो उसमें से पिवट का नाम दिया जा सकता है, लेकिन उसमें से कुछ आइडियाज, कुछ लर्निंग्स आएंगे, which becomes a step for you or your company. And since that step is a little 12 degrees or 5 degrees or 70 degrees at an angle from your current state of execution, current direction of execution, it ends up becoming called a pivot. Okay. So for example, I do not know how many of our entrepreneurs today, you know you see the way the world changed when Jam Trinity happened. Okay. Jandhan, Aadhaar, mobile, bandwidth, uh, uh, the Digi Locker, today the ONDC. These are massively transformational innovations, and one gave birth to something called as a Paytm, another gave birth to something called Geo. The entire Geo story that Nandan and Mukesh Ambani they talk about after the launch of Aadhaar, for scaling and adding, what is it, 100 million customers in 200 days.
Yeah.
Look at the ability that organization has shown at that size to
Yeah.
to embrace a change, which perhaps other people were saying कि चलो देखते हैं ये कुछ हो रहा है, पहले देखते हैं, let somebody else try, and then हम कोशिश करेंगे. But a large organization went and did that on one side, and a young guy called Vijay Shekhar Sharma did that on the other side 10 years ago. These are all tremendous examples of entrepreneurs, basically, in my view, constantly in a state of learning and eagerness, number one. Number two, looking at it as what is in it for me to take away and learn to implement in my organization. Of course, there is always a caveat that you cannot be seeing 3 things or 5 things every week and going back and loading your team ki ye karo wo karo wo karo. Some of us entrepreneurs are likely to be even doing that, but as long as there is a good checks and balances, मुझे लगता है कि environment से, competition से ये हमेशा आता रहता है. और अगर आपने नोटिस किया होगा, गुड कंपनीज, गोविंद, दे हैव द हैबिट ऑफ some 2 or 3 simple practices, which is
Right.
to write down a vision document for the next 3 years,
Absolutely.
and you visit that every year. तो उसमें क्या होता है ना कि इंस्टीट्यूशनली, ऑर्गेनाइजेशनली आपको मजबूर करता है कि हर जनवरी में आप जाकर रोलिंग 3 ईयर सेल्स प्लान लिखोगे अगले 3 साल के लिए. ठीक
Sure.
है. And then when you juxtapose it with quarterly board meetings or monthly business reviews, you have a 1 month perspective, 3 month perspective, 1 year action, and a 3 year vision. These four, when they are being done in a very, very methodical way, this pivoting becomes a very natural outcome of that discipline.
Sure. No, thank you. I think very, very important lesson that I can kind of take away, and would like to kind of bring one take away for me is to, in order to be thinking about pivoting and thinking about right time, I think the right time is always, as long as you're learning and seeing the environment, and then relating it to your problems and the opportunities. I think that's where everybody should be looking at pivoting. That and like you said, that a founder's role is to set a roadmap for 3 years, 5 years, not really looking at, okay, let me do this for tomorrow and this week and this month. So I think that is one important lesson that I also learned in the past, that as a CEO, as a founder, as a co-founder, our jobs is to look more be more visionary than to be more execution and then thinking about pivot in a very small way, like you shared this example of geo and other things. And of course with the new things coming, ONDC and a lot of things are coming. I think the pivot now it's coming in my head is more clear, is that it is always about learning from the environment and then taking the direction which is aligned with the purpose and the value that you mentioned, that it has to be with the business, right? Now when of course learning and doing these pivots and all that, of course what are the considerations and what kind of environmental internal environment considerations we should be doing when we are pivoting, like you said, okay, learn and then implement. Of course it can have a balance between not every day, but what are the, if you can help in giving some sort of framework, what are the considerations that we should be doing apart from research? Again, research is probably given, right? So what else would you give as a checklist for us?
I think one very very important thing, and this is, it is very likely that most entrepreneurs, even if they've heard it many times, they might learn it only through experience, which is that पिवट करने के लिए सिर्फ एक बंदे के सोच लेने से पिवट नहीं हो पाता है. Okay, you need to even a very very small organization of, let's say, when I'm saying this, I'm thinking of a conversation I had with a young guy just about 3-4 days ago when Entrepreneurs Day come. It's a 30-member organization. Okay, uh, or a 100-member organization. I'm referring to some recent conversation of the last week when they say, Satya, can I get half an hour of your time? Want to bounce off some things, and then they're wanting to pivot. Then what happens is that as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you are a player as well as a coach and mentor. As a player, you can take your bat pad and start running, but as a coach, as a mentor, you have to get into a huddle. You have to create the right uh, intellectual as well as emotional space in the minds of your one downs, your core team members, for them to go through this in a very, not just in a wholesome way, in an enjoyable way, but also as if they own this pivot. Okay, because ये इस pivot में भी सब pivots होंगे, उस सब pivots में भी सब pivots होंगे. ठीक है, ये एक it's a very analog thing, it's not digital. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I have found myself checking myself is, pivot needs patience, pivot needs people, pivot needs appetite for to give it the time, and appetite for it to be a failure, appetite to move away from a comfort zone. Many a time it gets sabotaged, because यार जो कर रहे हैं वो ठीक तो चल रहा है, क्यों परेशान कर रहे हो? Okay, so as a leader, you have to take all these 2-3 kinds of people together, which means ability to deal with dissent, ability to amplify negative responses as if that is true, because even as entrepreneur, you don't want to preside a pivot which becomes hurtful to the organization. तो अगर किसी बंदे का या किसी टीम मेंबर का उसका उसका नेगेटिव व्यू, एंटी व्यू आता है, उसको हेल्दीली डिबेट करके डिस्कस करने का भी मुझ में स्पेस होना चाहिए, और उनको टाइम देना चाहिए. So as we end up building organization, we realize that at the end of it's becoming 60, 70, 80% people, HR, leadership, coaching, and execution is most important. There's no doubt about it. But making people execute means you have to become the coach. You are that, many a time you are that Gary Kirsten, who can only applaud if that guy scores a 6, and if he throws his wicket away, you can't do much about it. But you can't show anger because he has to play tomorrow morning for you again. So how do you deploy that anger in a very proactive way? So खुद का सेल्फ चेक होना जरूरी है. So दो चीजें मैं कहूंगा: observe yourself, have patience, number one. Number two, make the time, that space, the context, everybody should be able to imbibe, debate, discuss, align before you say execute. ये दोनों मुझे
Sure.
लगता है कि बहुत जरूरी है.
Sure. No, I think very very rightly said that it is also about communicating to your your team and your maybe customers at some point, and then like you said that also being calm about it, because of course when you are pivoting, as humans we also get frustrated because we don't know the solution and outcome, right? And I
Right.
think it becomes very very imperative to be probably meditating more and be more calm and composed about the whole situation. But it's when the question it comes is that given the kind of team now and the talent available, again it's not very easy to kind of tell that, hey, now we are doing something, now we will do something else, or we will be pivoting this way. And then of course team may or may not take it in that positive conversation. And then of course uh, with the team a lot of opportunities available for them outside, wherever they are. So in order to be effective coach, the question that I want to bring in, you said that it is very important to be an effective coach to the team. Uh, would you share some tips for founders who are, especially young founders, who are still in the coaching phase? How to do they coach their team to make them, be part of that pivot? I think that would give some direction, reading list that would be really useful for us.
Again, the moment you said young founders, I quickly a flash from the past went past my brain. I'm talking about late 90s की बात है. So I must have been 26, 27, and I had recently hired an HR head who was 15 years my senior and from XLRI. He had quit the corporate sector and came, and we were growing very fast. और लग रहा था कि यार एक ऐसा HR बंदा चाहिए. But in a matter of 5-6 months realized that this was not a good choice by either me or him. It wasn't working out. And that was like a moment of truth where I had to let him go. And I had never sacked a person. Sack is a very very wrong word, but we end up using it because it's fashionable or quick or whatever. It communicates that you are the boss of the world. ऐसा नहीं होता है, क्योंकि अगला भी इंसान है, अगला तुमसे सीनियर है, तुमसे 15 साल सीनियर है, और तुमने लाइफ में कभी अभी तो कुछ किया नहीं है, लेकिन ये वर्कआउट नहीं कर रहा है. So how do you bring that wholesomeness into this conversation? I didn't have enough experience to blame him, saying that you are a moron, you get going now. अभी तुमको sack कर दिया. Okay. He could be saying the same thing to me. At the same
Yeah.
time, it was not working out. At the same time, I had enough data that ये जिस तरह से काम कर रहे हैं उस तरह से ये काम मेरा चलेगा नहीं. ओके, वो 70s के हैं, मैं 90s का हूँ, हम अभी नया जमाना है, ऐसा करके. So I can understand exactly what you are saying. इसमें लीडरशिप स्टाइल में इस वजह से ना, देयर इज अ वेरी सिंपल कॉन्सेप्चुअल फ्रेमवर्क. आई वुड लव एवरी entrepreneur who's watching this to download. There is something called as a leadership style. और ये इनवायलेबल है, जैसे जैसे ग्रेविटी इनवायलेबल है, रिलेटिविटी इनवायलेबल है, ऐसे ही लीडरशिप स्टाइल में 4 स्टाइल्स हैं. ओके. और वो बड़ा सिंपल सा कॉन्सेप्चुअल फ्रेमवर्क है. इफेक्टिव लोग इसका हमेशा ही इस्तेमाल करते हैं, चाहे इंट्यूटिवली करते हो या जानकर प्रैक्टिस करके मास्टरी करके करते हो. वो है, देयर इज अ टेल. 4 स्टाइल्स आर टेल स्टाइल, सेल स्टाइल, कंसल्ट स्टाइल और डेलीगेट. It's a 2 by 2 matrix. I can draw it on a sheet of paper and send it to you, Govind. Feel free to share it with people. But if you just Google it, you will get it. Okay. Now, if the team member, if you and I are working, and if you and I have worked together for long periods of time, okay, and you and I are, it's maturity as a team, and capability and commitment as another metric. So these are the x and y axis. अगर ये
Hmm.
दोनों हाई है तो Sachin and Saurav Ganguly didn't have to shout to each other to take a run. आंखों से बातें हो जाती हैं. That's a delegate style. देख लिया यार, ये थोड़ा देख ले, ये कर ले, उसको समझ में आ जाता है. The delegate style. That's the most mature in competency, mature in relationship. ठीक है. अब उसके थोड़ा सा पहले में आओगे, consult, which means he has the competence, he has the commitment to the cause, but we have been beginning to work only recently. That is a consulting style. I and you will consult each other. यार सत्या तो क्या सोचता है, मैं ऐसा सोच रहा हूँ, ये क्या कहता है, and we quickly are coming, because but you're having an engagement, you're having a conversation in a consultative style. Okay. तीसरा है sell. Sell meaning he trusts me, but he's new to the ecosystem, he's new to this, high competence, etc. Then I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell it. Why will we attack Kargil? Why will we go from here? Why will not go from there? Strategy को आप sell करते हो. लेकिन वो जो कर्नल साहब है, वो जो मेजर साहब है, उनको मैं सेल करता हूं एज अ लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल, बिकॉज आई नो दैट दिस गाय वाज अ कैप्टन 10 years ago, he won that battle for me, etc. But now I'm going to sell to him that we are going to do this because I am responsible for the strategy making. But when that major saab goes to the front, to a subedar or to a jawan is going to tell, आप लोग 6 बजे जाओगे, ये आपका अम्यूनिशन है, ये उधर अटैक करोगे नॉर्थ साइड से जाकर, और देन वंस यू गेट होल्ड ऑफ दैट बंकर्स, देन वी विल अटैक फ्रॉम दिस साइड. ही इज टेलिंग देम. ओके. सो टेल, सेल, कंसल्ट, डेलीगेट. ये डिपेंड करता है आपका अगले के साथ, टीम के साथ क्या रिलेशनशिप है, क्या लेंथ ऑफ रिलेशनशिप है, क्या कॉम्पिटेंसी गैप्स हैं. इन सब के बेसिस पर ये सिंपल सा कॉन्सेप्ट है. इसको लेकर आप करोगे ना, it's just not in the context of pivot, but even in any decision making, any strategy making, any review meetings, you will not deploy an incorrect tone. देखिए, most of the things we do wrong, not because your intent is wrong. Intent is, I would say, is never is wrong with any person unless it is proven. But मैं टेल वाले को डेलीगेट कर देता हूं कि आप अपने सूबेदार को, जवान को बोल दिया, यार ये देखो रखा हुआ है, देखो कैसे तुम पाकिस्तान को अटैक करके आओगे. चलेगा नहीं. या लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल को चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ टेल कर रहा है, वो भी चलेगा नहीं. ठीक है. सो in a very simple, when a Dhoni is padding up and he tells Yuvraj Singh, because Sachin put a word कि बॉस लेफ्ट हैंडर आउट हुआ है, ये आउट हुआ है, राइट हैंडर आउट हुआ है, मैं जा रहा हूं. धोनी हैड टू जस्ट इंडिकेट दैट टू युवराज, who was padded up in the middle of the World Cup finals in 2011. ओके. सो वहां पर बहुत ज्यादा बातें करने की जरूरत नहीं है. सो these are the things you will learn. But if it's early stages of your career, read these up and practice it. It'll help a lot in being effective as a leader.
Sure. Thank you. I mean, I would say it has, kind of, if we are missing this kind of, important element of leadership, I think I learned a lot from this. I'm going to use it, and I'm going to kind of tell my team and managers, how to really use it. Thank you for sharing. I think this is one of the big lessons for today. I think, yes, we started with pivoting, but I think this is again a very, very crucial element. Like you said, that when we are pivoting, it has to be coaching as an element. And I think this is a great framework for us to kind of learn from. Now, my last question for the day is, of course, once we have done the pivot, we have done the coaching with the teams, and we have started to do it. Uh, how how do you measure the success of that one step? Or should you be documenting? Should you be driving lessons? How did you do that, or how do you help other startups when you consult them or mentor them? Do we document, or what should we do to kind of reflect on the pivoting? How should we do it, and how frequently we should do it?
I would say two things, Govin. And the in an earlier question we did mention about the long-term vision and then brass tacks here, and I don't want young entrepreneurs to walk away with an incorrect understanding or interpretation of of this conversation between us, and that is relevant in this question. जब आपने पिवट कर दिया या आपने कोई डिसीजन ले लिया, 3 साल या 1 साल का मीडियम टर्म, लॉन्ग टर्म, 5 साल का पर्सपेक्टिव लेकर कुछ चॉइस किया है, at that time you are playing the role of that vision holder, the guide, the herd manager in giving the entire team a set of certain direction. And I think effortlessly or with effort, but with a lot of intensity, it is always very important, in my view, to be on top of the data that tells you on an, whether it is a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis, what are the measures, what is the way in which we're going to measure the efficacy of this decision that we have taken. It could be a very simple marketing campaign. ओके, आपने आपने गूगल में ऐड डाला, आपका अगले सैटरडे कुछ कॉन्फ्रेंस है, दीज थिंग्स आर नॉट मेजर्ड, नॉट एवरीथिंग दैट यू डू इज लाइक अ लाइफ चेंजिंग और अ अर्थ शैटरिंग थिंग. दीज आर ऑल सिंपल स्ट्रेटजीज दैट हैज टू वर्क. यार इस साल का मेरे को सेल्स क्लोजर इतना करना है, इतने लीड्स जनरेट करने हैं, है ना. नाउ at least this is something that I have observed of other good entrepreneurs, and I do practice it as a discipline, that I must be on top of these important indicative data uh, uh, on an everyday basis for me to know कि हम लोग ये जो स्टेप ले रहे हैं ये काम कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है. That must not wait if you ask me for a weekly review and somebody telling me on a PowerPoint or an Excel sheet के क्या situation है. Because when I'm doing that, I'm again allowing a middleman to come and cloud the data into information through his prism, through his lens. As an entrepreneur, I don't want to do that, which means I always say, and it is possible, chances are that young, bright entrepreneurs are doing it, and many of them might be doing even better than I'm doing, that the same screen of dashboard of real data must be available to everybody who's a stakeholder into that thing. And each person reads it, analyzes it, using his or her own truths, her own biases, his own analysis. And then when we come together to review, everybody is able to say it. But in this era, it need not even wait for tomorrow's morning. I see some data today on my screen at 4:55 and I'm driving to the airport. I can WhatsApp and talk to the two critical stakeholders. यार ये मैं देख रहा हूँ, तुम ये देख रहे हो क्या, कुछ करना चाहिए क्या, क्योंकि मैं 2 दिन के लिए जा रहा हूँ, नहीं मीट कर पाएंगे तो आप कर दो. तो मुझे रियल टाइम डेटा and real time interventions with agility, which is possible today, which was not possible a decade ago, 2 decades ago, because the technology, the information systems, the real time data capture were of a very different order then. Now it's a very different order. तो मैं कहूंगा कि इसके implementation में, from the CEO to a project leader, if there are 2-3 layers, everybody should be able to see same data. It is again like I'm saying, when you get into the battle zone, when you get into the cricket field, soccer field, हायरार्की नहीं रहता है, competencies रहते हैं, skills रहते हैं, अलग अलग points of view रहते हैं. The way the left out will see in a soccer game, left out will see the ball moving is very different from the halfback seeing. Both see from their own points. तो मुझे लगता है कि उस implementation में everybody should see one screen of truth and bring his or her own competencies to bear upon the next discussion that you do the next day or the next Monday.
Sure. No, thank you. And I think one of the lesson again to summarize is to also have this transparency mindset that you're able to show this and share this data with the team and stakeholders. I think sometimes as founders, there's an urge to hide a lot of things just because we fear that how team will think. And so I think that's also one important lesson, that there has to be some bit of sharing across the team. When there is a strategy or a metric in the cricket team, then everybody should know what's the plan, right?
Absolutely.
Now, Sheldon has a question which is slightly on the tangent of the topic. How do you know it's time to let go and it's time to move on, especially when it's a big decision in while pivoting? Like maybe when again relating to our conversation, when you decided कि यार अभी cricket, of course I love it, but let me just go on my academic journey now. So some tips, some thoughts around it would be really useful.
मेरे ख्याल से वो वाला डिसीजन कभी भी सोच से नहीं आता है. You never it the day and you can read up interviews of all those people who retired, whether it is Roger Federer or Sachin Tendulkar. They tell you that one day they woke up and then their body told them, mind told them कि यार अब बहुत है. ठीक है ना. विच मीन्स अगर मैं अपने आप से बातें करता रहता हूं, जो कि हम लोग सब करते रहते हैं, और सुनता हूं, तो वो आवाज जब आएगा बड़ा क्लियरली आएगा. वो इंटेलेक्चुअल चॉइस नहीं है, वो पूरा आपका जो सिस्टम विच इज गॉट 29 types of intelligences, they all will come together, synthesize, and they'll tell you, just keep listening to it. By the same token, and because of the same reason, you know whether it's a Pandit Ravi Shankar or Azim Premji or a Sunil Gavaskar, they went on to do stuff at the age of 70s and 80s and 90s. So मुझे नहीं लगता है कि इसमें कोई रूल बुक है और ये प्योर इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसीजन नहीं है. इट हैज थिंग्स लाइक बॉडी, माइंड, इमोशन, बंच ऑफ थिंग्स. सो जब तक वो आवाज अंदर से नहीं आता, चलते रहो. जब आवाज आ जाता है, इट इज नॉट टू अर्ली. मैं ये भी एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को बोलता हूँ, मेरे पास आके बात करते हैं कि मैं छोड़ने का सोच रहा था, लेकिन मैं ये हो रहा, वो हो रहा है. मैं बोला यार, जब वो सोच आ गया ना, देन बाकी सब जो तुम कर रहे हो वो ड्रामा है. मुझे मेरे आई पुल्ड माय क्रिकेटिंग करियर फॉर अ ईयर एंड अ हाफ बाय आउट ऑफ शेयर गिल्ट. मैंने कहा कि ये कैसे कर सकता हूं मैं, तो मैंने 1-1.5 साल उसको खींचा, क्योंकि मुझे लग रहा था कि यार ये लाइक यू सेड, इट्स अ वेरी वेरी एंग्विश गिविंग, वेरी पेन गिविंग, वेरी इमोशनली, your people around you are not cannot see you're going through it. It kind of tears you apart, and it is at that time it's very important to be able to you know think with a little bit of a detachment. And if any one of us has a sounding board, a coach, or somebody that you can go and confide in, take inputs, it just might help. uh, and a good sounding board or a good coach or a good mentor again will not prescribe to you. He will listen to it and let the silence speak back to you, and lets you go back and say तुम थोड़ा और सोच लो. और एंड ही टेल्स यू कि इसमें ये भी ठीक है, वो भी ठीक है, सोच लो आपको ठीक, ऐसा करके छोड़ देता है. प्रिस्क्रिप्टिव वो काम इस इधर नहीं करता है मेरे हिसाब से.
Sure. No, thank you for sharing. I really wish this conversation can go on and on, but before we end the episode, I would like to request you. Now there's one more question. I think I want to take it. Given the current startup scenarios, how much important VC driven startup compared to founder driven? Can the landscape improve if VCs take back seat and from a quick revenue perspective? Sayak has put this question. So very, very quick view on this, and then we'll close. I know I have to let you go, but some views on this question would be really useful.
देखो, अभी तुमने लास्ट मिनट में 3 क्रेडिट कोर्स का कंट्रोवर्शियल टॉपिक छेड़ दिया है.
I have
लेकिन
not. The user have. I mean,
या
I
सैयद
did not get
सैयद
questions.
सैयद नो नो yeah, I mean, it is a very real topic. And I can talk about this for a little longer, but I'll try and summarize this. देखो, अगर वीसी एंटरप्रेन्योर बन सकता था तो वो एंटरप्रेन्योर बनता. ठीक है. हमको पेट्रोल को इंजन से, ड्राइवर से कंफ्यूज नहीं करना चाहिए.
बिल्कुल.
ठीक है. वीसी, और जब मैंने जर्नी शुरू किया था, वीसीज मेरे से 20 साल सीनियर लोग थे. अब वीसीज मेरे से 20 साल जूनियर लोग हैं. ठीक है। और और हर वीसी जो के ये सच्चाई जानता है, वो एंटरप्रेन्योर की ओर रिस्पेक्टफुल रहता है। और एंटरप्रेन्योर का मेरा ख्याल है कि एंटरप्रेन्योर का ये दायित्व है, ये उसका फर्ज है कि वो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के ऊपर रिस्पेक्ट न जाने दे, न गिरने दे अपने अपने कामों से। यू हैव टू कमांड रिस्पेक्ट फ्रॉम योर वीसीज। If somebody can write a couple of $1 million and ride a roughshod over me, it's not a reflection about him, it is a reflection about me. और क्योंकि मैं कस्टमर को देख के बिजनेस प्लान नहीं बना रहा हूं, मैं देख रहा हूं कि मेरा बैचमेट ने 20 मिलियन रेस कर दिया, तो मैं भी कर देता हूं। वो उसका प्रोडक्ट मेरे से खराब है लेकिन उसने 50 मिलियन रेस कर दिया, मैं कर देता हूं। रेस हो भी जाता है तो वो तो डाउनहिल की शुरुआत है। वो recently Kanwal Rekhi wrote a nice piece, and he often posts this on LinkedIn. Too much of money is actually the mother of bad habits. uh, so and VC led startups, they can happen if the VCs have been entrepreneurs. In Silicon Valley, guys like Peter Thiel, LinkedIn founders, Elon Musk's, and Kanwals, and all of Indians, and all people who built companies into hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars. When they came together, they all have run the companies. एंड देन एक टाइम आया था जब उन्होंने नोटिस किया कि देयर आर सम कंपनीज व्हिच आर गेटिंग टू 100 मिलियन, 200 मिलियन, बट दे आर नॉट ब्रीचिंग द बिलियन डॉलर थिंग, क्योंकि अगले लेवल का लीडरशिप के लिए हम लोग आएंगे अगर साथ, तो वी कैन हेल्प। बट एवरी सिंगल सेकोया का आप फाउंडर्स का लिस्ट देख लीजिए यूएस में, दे आर ऑल पीपल हु बिल्ट ऑल ऑफ दोस अप। मतलब गूगल के लिए पहले $100,000 का चेक दिया था, उधर बंदा बैठा हुआ है, क्योंकि वहां क्यों बैठा हुआ है, उसने ऑलरेडी बिल्ड किया था। बट मेनी अ टाइम इट ऑलमोस्ट इज लाइक if Raju Srivastava, he looks like Amitabh Bachchan, he speaks like Amitabh Bachchan, he can do that for 5 minutes, but he doesn't become Amitabh Bachchan. So because you have the same model, same technology, same laptop, same jargon, you sit in Bangalore or Gurgaon, and you are trying to someone like a Sanjeev Bikhchandani can do in India, who's built the companies, earned the respect, and बोलते हैं तो वो वहां से आता है। तो मैं कहता हूं कि VC led startups, whether it's successful or not, it is possible, it can be successful, it can be unsuccessful. I will always make a very specific statement कि तुम अगर आप मेरे को बताओगे कि ये VC है, ये फाउंडर है, ये लोग 70% इस कंपनी में लेकर उसको चला रहे हैं, देन आई विल से चांसेस है। इफ यू टेल मी अनदर सेट ऑफ पीपल, आई विल से मुश्किल है। और सेम चीज मैं कहूंगा कि कौन एंटरप्रेन्योर है जो उस मिक्स में है, ये एंटरप्रेन्योर है तो चलेगा, ये है तो शायद मुश्किल है। ओके, लॉन्ग एंड शॉर्ट ऑफ इट, गोविंद।
Sure. No, thank you, sir. I think one of the most insightful LinkedIn Live I can tell you personally have been for me to learn from pivot to leadership to the VC ecosystem. Thank you for sharing all these insights. I know that we have passed time well ahead. So thank you for being here. Just last message or guru mantra you typically give to startups you mentor. I would like to end this conversation with that, and would thank you for sharing that.
Just one very very simple thing which I also heard, from whether it is from my father or some entrepreneurship guru in something from CK Prahlad. I will simply say this: कि nobody is wise about the future. See, there is a little bit of a wisdom that I am kind of doling out today, but all of it is from the past. All about the future, all of us are equally wise. So the only thing that I would tell a young entrepreneur is to strike a good balance between there is something called as a apta deepo bhava. It was said by Gautam Buddha, apta deepo bhava, which means be the light that you want to be. If you're looking for light, you be that light. Okay, you become the light. Okay, which means I will have to burn myself. I will have to become the light. The hard part of entrepreneurship is you have to burn. ये चिल्लर काम नहीं है. It almost is like a spiritual journey. The manifestation of it or the romanticizing of it is in net worth and billions of dollars and all. But boss, journey अकेले का है. Journey बहुत rich है, बहुत enriching है, regardless of what is your net worth. Or it can be very, very agonizing with a lot of net worth also. So one is have the self-belief that everybody in this room knows equally well or equally bad about yourself, which means have that self-belief. Balance it with, I would say, always with humility, openness to be wrong, or the prerogative to be wrong, privilege to be wrong, appetite for making mistakes. तो मैं बोलूंगा कि इन दो को बैलेंस करके चलो. बाकी जो भी है, ऑल ऑफ अस हैव कम फ्रॉम वेरी मिडिल क्लास फैमिलीज. रोजी रोटी किससे चलता है हमको मालूम है. दैट्स द ग्रेट थिंग अबाउट इंडियन सोसाइटी. मेट्रो में चल लेगा बंदा, अगले को पता नहीं चलेगा कि 2 दिन खाना नहीं खाया है या पिक्चर नहीं देखा है, वो सब कर लेगा. एंड दैट्स द ब्यूटी ऑफ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप. एज लॉन्ग एज इट इज देयर and you have a can do attitude, I think it'll be lovely. It'll be a great thing, and entrepreneurs are going to make India, in my view, what India will achieve in the next 50, 100 years.
Sure. Thank you once again, Satya sir, for being here today and sharing all the wisdom. I really, really appreciate it. And for you, for the audience, follow Satya sir on LinkedIn and Twitter, and the links are in the comments. Thank you again. I have took more than what we kind of asked you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying with us, and wish everyone the very good weekend.
Thank you, Govind. Thank you, everybody. I enjoyed the
Thank you.
conversation too. Thanks. Bye.
Now, you can follow me and Arctic Invent for more information on upcoming episodes, and ring the bell to get the notified on them. Speaking of upcoming episodes, the last question we talked about the VCs and the funding ecosystem. A lot of people have been telling me that told me that I've been concentrating mainly what comes after the investment, right? So we would like to have one topic which is on 28th July now on 4 p.m. We will be talking about something post-funding investor relationship. And there will be people sharing from investor perspective, founder perspective. So be there. We will be talking about how you can manage your funding, post-funding investor relationships in this talk. So I welcome you all, and do sign up. We will be posting this event just after this conversation. Thank you for being here today, and see you next time on 28th. Thank you.